For years, if you pictured Southeast Asian getaways, well, Thailand was probably right there at the top of the list, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Bangkok, the beaches, Pattaya, iconic destinations.
Yeah, iconic. But something's changing. Something quite significant, actually. In just the first quarter of 2025, Vietnam actually welcomed more Chinese tourists than Thailand.
That's right. The numbers are pretty stark, 1.6 million into Vietnam compared to Thailand's 1.33 million.
It's a real flip. And that's what we're diving into today. Why is this happening?
Exactly. What's putting pressure on Thailand, specifically with Chinese visitors, and, well, what's Vietnam doing right?
We've got some interesting perspectives to work with. There's traveler feedback from a Reddit forum on Thailand tourism, which gives you that sort of ground level view.
Yeah, the real experiences.
Then we have news reports, Pattaya Mail, VN Express International, Nation Thailand, Sharp Travels giving us the hard data, and some early analysis.
And rounding it out, there's an academic piece from Synergy, the Journal of Contemporary Asian Studies, which looks more deeply into Vietnam's tourism strategy.
So the mission today is to pull all this together, understand the difficulties, the successes, and really paint a clear picture of this evolving tourism landscape for you.
It's a great mix. You get the personal stories, the news headlines, and the strategic overview. Should give us a pretty comprehensive understanding.
Okay, let's jump straight into those numbers because they really they tell the story. This isn't a small shift.
No, not at all.
In March 2025 alone, just 1 month, Vietnam got 670,000 Chinese tourists. Thailand, around 300,000.
That's more than double in a single month. It's dramatic.
It really is. And looking ahead for 2025, the forecast suggests Thailand might only see maybe 4.2 to 5.5 million Chinese visitors total.
Which is a big drop from the 6.7 million they had in 2024.
Yeah, a significant decline.
Yeah.
And even places like Pattaya, longtime hotspot, they're feeling it. Businesses are apparently asking, where did the Chinese tourists go?
It really underlines how quickly things can change. When a powerhouse destination like Pattaya sees such a dip, you know the reasons behind it must be pretty compelling. And Vietnam's simultaneous rise isn't a coincidence.
Definitely not. And a huge factor, it seems, is cost. Just pure value for money.
That comes up again and again.
Across all our sources, really. Thailand is just perceived as getting much more expensive. We're talking hotels, restaurants, even the flights to get there.
Right. There was that example of a hotel on Koh Samui. Used to be 2,000 baht, now it's 6,000 baht, over just 5 years.
Exactly. And someone else mentioned a dinner in Pattaya, 7,000 baht for two, and that wasn't even with booze.
Wow, that's steep.
Even getting there costs more. An American traveler mentioned flights going from maybe $300 to nearly $1,000. A British visitor saw fares hit 1,200 pounds.
That really changes the calculation for potential visitors. And it's not just foreigners, is it?
No, that's a key point. Even Thai people are apparently finding domestic travel, flights and hotels within Thailand harder to afford.
That really tells you something. If the locals are feeling the pinch, then the perception of being expensive for tourists is likely very real.
And this perception, this feeling that maybe the value isn't there anymore, it's crucial.
Absolutely. Like that Reddit comment, Thailand used to be a steal, now it feels like they're trying to squeeze every last bat out of you. That sentiment captures it perfectly.
It really does. And, well, this is where Vietnam seems to be making serious inroads.
Offering similar things, but cheaper.
Yeah, sources suggest Vietnam offers, the beaches, the culture, the shopping, similar experiences, but potentially around 30% cheaper.
That's a significant difference.
And people are comparing Thailand, not just to Vietnam, but also places like Cambodia or the Philippines, seeing them as a maybe better value now.
It becomes a very logical alternative, doesn't it? Especially if you're budget conscious. But even if you're not, if the perceived quality in Vietnam is good and it costs less,
Well,
well,
it's a strong pull. But it's not only about money. Safety concerns in Thailand seem to be another growing factor.
yes, that kidnapping incident involving the Chinese actor in January 2025, that made headlines.
Big headlines. And it clearly resonated, particularly in the Chinese market.
High-profile incidents like that can really damage a destination's image, sometimes disproportionately. News reports mention Chinese social media buzzing with safety worries afterwards.
And it's not just that one event, is it? There's been other negative press about crime, scams, transport hassles, especially around Pattaya. It seems to be chipping away at the reputation.
Yeah, that kind of negative perception, once it takes hold, can be really tough to shake off. It creates unease.
Okay, so we have cost, we have safety.
Mm-hmm.
What about just the practicalities, like visas and paperwork?
Yes. Bureaucracy. That's another friction point mentioned for Thailand.
The new digital arrival card system, the
Yeah.
TDAC, online registration requirements. Some tourists are finding it frustrating.
And there was the change to the standard tourist visa duration, too, wasn't there? Down from 60 days to 30 days.
Right, which impacts people planning longer stays.
Meanwhile, Vietnam seems to have gone in the opposite direction.
Exactly. They simplified things. Big move was extending their e-visa to 90 days. And that's for citizens of all countries.
That's a huge convenience factor. 90 days makes longer holidays or even mixing business and leisure much easier.
It removes a barrier right at the start. The Synergy Journal actually highlighted Vietnam's approach here, saying it aligns with best practices for attracting tourism. Easy entry versus potential hassle, it influences choices.
Definitely. A smoother process just makes a destination feel more welcoming from the outset. Thailand's more complex rules might just deter some people.
And there's another layer here too. Maybe tourist tastes are just changing.
That's a really important point, especially looking at the affluent Chinese traveler segment.
They're looking for new places, right? Less crowded, maybe, offering different experiences.
Yes, reports suggest a growing interest in luxury, high-quality service, but also unique cultural experiences, wellness retreats, ecotourism, things like that.
So maybe Pattaya's traditional focus, heavily centered on nightlife, isn't quite hitting the mark for this evolving group.
It might seem a bit out of step, yeah. Destinations need to adapt. If travelers are looking for deeper cultural immersion or nature-based activities, a place known primarily for something else might lose appeal.
Okay, so let's flip this. What is Vietnam doing that's working so well? We've touched on visas.
Well, beyond visas, there's massive investment going on. Serious money into tourism infrastructure.
Like what specifically?
Five-star resorts, high-end golf courses, even casinos targeting wealthier tourists. They're not just relying on budget travel.
And they're marketing this actively.
Oh, yes. Marketing campaigns specifically pushing luxury travel. And we mentioned the visa policy, but that's part of a broader strategy.
The Tourism Policy 2017 mentioned in the Synergy Journal.
Exactly. That seems to be key, providing investment incentives, streamlining regulations for the industry, making it easier to build and operate these high-quality facilities.
So it's infrastructure, policy, what else?
A big focus on promoting Vietnamese culture, its heritage, the food, the people, trying to offer that authentic experience travelers seem to want.
And making it easy to spend money too, right? The QR code payment system with China.
Yes, that's a really practical, smart move. Chinese tourists are so used to mobile payments. Removing that friction around carrying cash or exchanging currency makes a big difference to their comfort and spending.
Plus, they've been signing agreements directly with Chinese provinces, visa exemptions. It feels very coordinated.
It really does. It looks like a deliberate, multi-pronged strategy. Investing in the hard product, resorts, etc. The soft product, culture, welcome, the policies, visas, investment, and the practicalities, payments. It's comprehensive.
It's quite impressive. Now, it's interesting because the issues in Thailand, they don't seem only related to Chinese tourists. That Reddit thread brought up a lot of general gripes.
Yes, from travelers from all over. The ATM fees were a big one.
That 220 baht charge every single time you withdraw cash. Plus, potential bad exchange rates from the ATM itself, sometimes without an option to decline it.
Adds up quickly. And then credit card foreign transaction fees on top. It contributes to that feeling of being constantly charged extra.
Then, the taxi situation. Drivers refusing meters, tuk-tuks quoting high prices if you don't haggle hard beforehand.
Though the Grab app was mentioned as a helpful alternative there.
True, but still, it's a hassle. Other things came up too, like, surprisingly, the cost of sunscreen, and even legal cannabis being expensive.
Little things that perhaps tourists expect to be cheaper.
And the beds, the famous hard-tie beds, still a common complaint.
Yes. Some people love them. Many don't.
Plus, air pollution in some areas was mentioned.
These are those day-to-day realities that shape the actual experience on the ground. They matter.
And the list kept going, didn't it? Dual pricing tourists paying more than locals at attractions.
That's always a sore point for travelers anywhere. Feels unfair.
Overcrowding at the really famous spots. Touts being too pushy. Restaurant greeters maybe being a bit too enthusiastic.
Yeah, the hard sell can be off-putting.
Inconsistent service sometimes. Super cold aircon on buses. Language barriers making things tricky for first-timers.
Though the language barrier point is sometimes debated, it does come up.
Food safety worries too. Especially street food. Someone mentioned unrefrigerated sushi. Yikes.
Oof. Yeah, that's a concern.
And sadly, some reports of discrimination experienced by non-white travelers.
That's particularly worrying and needs serious attention. Any form of discrimination is unacceptable and hugely damaging.
Absolutely. Then there were mentions of stray dogs, unpleasant smells in places, and still, a lack of easy electronic payment options for tourists. QR codes often not being available for foreign visitors.
It paints a picture of maybe infrastructure and service not always keeping pace, or some persistent irritants that detract from the overall experience. Individually small, maybe, but collectively.
Collectively, they add up. It suggests areas where Thailand could potentially improve the experience for all visitors, not just focus on one market.
Exactly. Addressing these fundamental experience points could have broad benefits.
So what is Thailand doing about all this? How are they responding?
Well, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, the TAT, they're aware of the challenges. They say they're adjusting marketing to focus on attracting quality tourists.
What does quality mean in this context? Higher spending, longer stays.
Likely a combination. Trying to move away from pure volume towards visitors who spend more and perhaps have a better, less disruptive experience.
Okay, what else are they doing?
They're running these mega fam trips, basically inviting Chinese tour operators and media over to showcase Thailand, trying to rebuild confidence in relationships.
Makes sense. Trying to get the positive stories out there.
They're also supporting airlines to reopen routes between Thailand and China, trying to restore that connectivity.
And pushing ahead with events celebrating the 50th anniversary of Thai-Chinese diplomatic ties.
Right, using that milestone. They've also acknowledged the need to work on the safety image and mentioned increasing promotional spending in China.
And that regional visa idea, the 6 countries, 1 destination plan.
Yes, that's an interesting one. Teaming up with Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Laos, and Cambodia for a potential common visa.
That could be big, making it much easier to tour the whole region.
It could be. If they can make it work logistically, it might significantly boost regional appeal for long-haul travelers. It shows they're thinking about collaborative approaches too.
So they are taking steps. It seems like a mix of marketing, relationship building, and exploring structural changes like the regional visa.
Yes, it shows they're not standing still. The question is whether these measures will be enough and fast enough to counter the trends and address those core issues around cost, safety perception, and the other traveler frustrations we discussed.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together then. What are the main takeaways here?
Well, first, it's clear Thailand's facing some real headwinds, especially with the crucial Chinese market. Rising costs, safety worries, visa hurdles, a sense that the value proposition isn't what it used to be. They're all contributing factors.
And second, Vietnam has really stepped up. Their strategic investments, the simplified visas, their focus on diverse experiences, and the lower cost base.
Yeah.
It's proving very effective.
Very effective. They've become a highly compelling alternative, capitalizing on some of Thailand's perceived weaknesses.
And third, the issues tourists report in Thailand aren't just about Chinese visitors. There's a broader set of challenges around costs, convenience, infrastructure, and service that affect many international travelers.
Precisely. It's a complex picture. The data, the policies, the traveler feedback, it all points to the significant rebalancing act happening in Southeast Asian tourism right now. Vietnam's rise highlights just how competitive the global tourism market is.
So for you listening, understanding these shifts is pretty useful, whether you're deciding where to travel next in Southeast Asia or just interested in the region. Being aware of these cost factors, visa rules, and changing preferences can definitely help you plan better.
Absolutely. It helps set expectations and informs your choices.
And it leaves us with a fascinating question to ponder, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Given everything we've discussed, the competition, the changing traveler demands, the specific issues raised, what does Thailand need to do long-term? Are the current responses enough?
Or do they need more fundamental shifts? Is that 6 countries, 1 destination visa the key? Or does it require deeper changes to infrastructure, pricing strategies, maybe even the core tourism product itself?
How can Thailand recapture that unique appeal it held for so long while ensuring tourism is sustainable and addresses the concerns of all its visitors? Something to think about.